Hey everybody, welcome back. It's good to see you. You know, I'm just going to be real honest with you today. Today, we are starting the turbo build on the old VW 5-cylinder here. So, yeah, it's going to be a good one. So we are officially starting the turbo build on the VW 2.5 liter 5-cylinder engine here in the Mark V Jetta race car. However, it's not going to be too in-depth because I got some work to do on the Audi A4 here that I need the quick jacks for. And that stuff exactly would be, I got to do a transmission fluid, just a drain and fill on it. But this thing has 52,000 miles on it. I want to do a drain and fill. I'm not going to pull the mech unit out and do the filters and everything. I'm just going to do a drain and fill on the fluid. But to do that, I got to turn the pump off on the transmission. So it's kind of an excuse for me to buy VCDS. So I did order that. I'm waiting on my HexNet cable from Rostec. So hopefully next weekend I'll be able to get that up on the quick jacks, do the drain and fill in the transmission, and then I won't need the quick jacks for a while. So I can get the old Mark V here up on quick jacks for long term, and we can really start getting into the turbo build. However, today we are going to tackle one of the projects that the car doesn't need to be up on quick jacks for, and that is fuel pump. So this is an RS4 fuel pump. I will leave links down in the description for everything that I use, all the parts. Specifically, this one here is a Continental pump. It is for the RS4, so we have to mate this up to fit in the fuel tank on the Mark V Jetta. So that basically means we got to swap the top hat here, do a little bit of wiring, mess with the fluid cables.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
The tubes, rather, a little bit. But we will get that in. I did pick up a new seal as well. This is the spa manifold. I did paint it with some high temp paint, so we'll see how that lasts long term, but that's got a coating on it to hopefully just prevent the rust. It's not a heat barrier or anything of any sorts. We're just looking to keep the rust away, but we'll see if that paint cures with the heat or whether, you know, down the road it just starts flaking off. But that's where we're at. We're doing fuel pump today, so we got to get the stock fuel pump out of the tank. Luckily, I already have the interior gutted, so I don't have to pull the seat or anything. So yeah, let's start pulling that out. Dirty. Factory fuel pump has left the chat. I've got a paper towel cover in the opening just so no debris falls into the tank. I've got my little makeshift workbench set up over here. Nice, just drip pan because we're messing with fuel and stuff. Anyways, old pump, new pump. You can see that there's a little bit of a difference. So we've got to make this match this. So basically top hat from this has to go to this. Then you've got the new fuel pump and everything. And we got to do a little bit of wiring. We got to do some tubing. And then that'll be ready to go back in the car. And I'm going to show you as much as I can, but I'm working through this for the first time, as most of you are. So I'm going to try to show you as much as the process because there's not really anything good out online. There's a few things that kind of go over it to a certain extent, but I'm going to try to go as in-depth as I can to show you how to make this work. Just keep in mind that if you put this in and your fuel pump doesn't work and stuff, I'm not at fault. I'm going to take you along for the ride. We're going to try to show you as much as we can on this swap here. That way you guys have a better understanding of what it needs to put the RS4 fuel pump into your Mark V or Mark VI. Now this is a 2010 Jetta, so it's a Mark V Jetta. If you're driving a Rabbit or something else, it might vary slightly, but it should, for the most part, follow along with what I'm doing here. that makes any sense. Anyways, let's get to work. All right, so the basic gist of it is basically this new bottom sump here has to match this whole unit here. So top hat has to come off of this one and go on this one. We also have to use the level sensor from this one because this is a 3-wire level sensor. Sorry for the shaky camera. The table's kind of, you know, it's going to be what it is. But 3-wire level sensor here, and this one's only a 2-wire. So we got to move the level sensor and the top hat from this one to this one. And then there's a couple tubes on here that we don't use. So this tube is just going to have to come off and get sealed up. And then this other small tube here will just come off with the top hat. And everything should drop back in, plug back in, because we've got the correct top hat with the wiring and everything. We've got the factory fuel level sensor. So your gas tank gauge, everything should function properly as it was like the factory, except you're going to have your higher flow rate pump. So that's the basic gist of it. I'm going to get to work, start swapping this over. These thicker wires here, these are the main wires that go to the pump itself. So those are the main ones that are going to have to get transferred over. You can cut and splice and heat shrink them. Just make sure you're using a fuel safe heat shrink. I am probably going to get my soldering iron out and do this a little bit more permanently without having to use heat shrink and stuff. And just unsolder this one, solder this one, make it all work together. But let's get into it. That's kind of the basic gist of what has to happen here to make this new fuel pump work with the factory fuel tank and everything. So yeah, kind of straightforward. I'll walk you through it. And I think it kind of goes without saying, but if you are going to be doing some soldering like I am, you are messing with stuff that was in a fuel tank here. So make sure it's dry. There's no fuel around it. Obviously you don't want to, you know, light the fuel on fire and just cause issues. So be safe with whatever way you're doing this. Safety first, because you can't go drive the car and have fun if you're injured or get sent to the hospital or burn your house down. So first things first, right here you can see a little tab bent out on this rod here. You're either going to have to bend that in or cut it off. That way you can take the top hat out and slide it out of the carrier. And then for the fuel level sender here, there's just a little clip there, so you got to release the clip and then you can pull this whole sender out. It'll kind of just slide out as a unit like this one here. So you'll have it separate like that, just hanging by the wires. But little clip there, little nub there, keeping the top hat secured to the basket. Trying to get you guys a non-wobbly camera here. Also don't want to tip this basket all the way over because there's still a little bit of fuel in there, but you can push the top hat down to gain access to that little nub. Voila, flatten that nub out. I just use some pliers. Then you can pull the whole thing out. Big old hook on there. There we go. Little tricky, but the outside of the forward looking tabs, the outside too, have pretty big hooks on them. So they really grab into it, but just be careful. This is the old basket, but you still don't want to break anything. Now just to unsolder some stuff and swap everything over. Some fuel still in that line. That's why we're working on this table here. We can spill fuel over it all we want. Not gonna hurt anything. Now we gotta separate that line so we can put the new line on and bing bang boom. Just to separate this from the basket. Cut that line. And we can put the old basket out of the way. Now, we've got everything we need here for the new pump. Just got to get this little bit of hose off, which I'm just going to try to slit down the side and then get off of the barb without ruining the barb. Ta-da! Now we got to prep the new pump. Basket on this one just kind of pulled right out. There was no tab or anything to cut or flatten out. This hasn't been pushed into the clip yet. So really all we need is this main tube here coming off of this top hat, and then we've got to cut the wires here because these new wires will feed the new pump. So you're getting rid of, you just need the basket and the main feed line. That's essentially what you need. This other small tube coming off of the pump right here is going to get sealed shut because the system we're putting it in does not use that setup. So since I'm soldering, I just went ahead and pulled the connectors right off of the pump, and then I'll just solder the new wires to these connectors and then pop them back on. So I will cut those wires off of those connectors once we get this off. We just got to disconnect some tubing. And if you notice, the old tubing for the old pump, the factory pump, is a little bit smaller. So this is a bigger diameter tubing. So instead of trying to get it off that barb, we're just going to cut it, and then we're going to put it onto the barb of the old top hat, and we're going to use a hose clamp to hold it on and seal it on there. Keep it from falling off. Cross your fingers that that doesn't happen. But it is different size tubing because this is obviously a higher flow rate, bigger tubing to go with the flow rate. You know what I mean. But we're just going to give this a nice snip at the end of the barb here. There we go. There's our tube. Cut the zip tie that's got all this together. Almost got everything we need separated. We've just got this tube here. So like I said, we are going to close this off. So I'm going to cut it with a little bit of length up here. And then I'm actually going to use my soldering iron just to basically plastic weld it shut. But I want to make sure there's enough room up there to work with it instead of cutting it right on the nub. Another zip tie. That's out of the way. This one should just pull out, and then we've got our new pump. So we don't need any of that. We need the new pump and hose with the old top hat and level sender. So all of that is essentially trash. I would hang on to it just in case you need it, but that's just me. Do, however, need the connectors off of this. So make our little cuts, and then I'm just gonna solder directly to the connector because I'm cool like that. What are you doing? These are the skills you learn when you grow up racing RC cars. You get very good at soldering. It's going to be a little tricky because of the housing. Leave a little length on that just in case I need to solder wire to wire. Alright, to close this one up, I got my little wireless soldering iron because these are better suited for doing stuff like this as opposed to trying to transfer a lot of heat into metal and soldering stuff together. It actually heats up super fast, which is nice, but as soon as you try to do any soldering with it where you try to transfer the heat into the material, just doesn't have enough power to keep up with it. I use this when I need to do some plastic stuff, like sealing shut these wires. The tip, I'd rather ruin the tip on this than the tip on that. I'm just gonna squeeze this together with some pliers, use the heat of the iron to just kind of weld it shut. Maybe I do need more temp. Let's just go full beans on it. 842 degrees. Try not to breathe this in either. I don't think that needs to be said, but burning plastic, probably not good for, you know, your anti-cancer and all that. Okay, that is all sealed up. I don't know if you can see that, but she's not open anymore. She's all sealed up. That should be good. And we just gotta get this on a new one, do some soldering. I'm gonna stop talking and just get this done. We're gonna solder some connectors and get everything on. Oh yeah. Told you I was good. Now we've just got fresh connectors that we can just plug right in.
You sure about that?
All right, this should be the easy part, right? Do have to get a hose clamp for that, but we are gonna get, actually, you know what? I'm gonna hose clamp that on before we put it together. Now that I have my hose clamp, let's do this. And the good news is that it still is biting on those barbs, so we should get a really good seal on this. We're just going to put the hose clamp on there for extra hoops and giggles. There we go. And this is a plastic barb, so definitely don't over tighten this hose clamp. Don't want to break the barb, because then you need a new top hat, and that's not what we were going for here. That should be good. You could obviously always just run a whole new line from the pump down, but just retaining the line that came with the pump. That should definitely be good and not be causing a leak. If we have any fueling issues, obviously we'll take this back out of the tank and check on it. But line's on, connectors are soldered. We can go ahead and connect those up to the pump, making sure we've got our wiring that's not going to get all cross tangled and everything. So we can connect this. There are two different size connectors, so you can't really get the positive and the negative on the wrong sides. Positive won't fit on the negative side, and the negative clips on with that little plastic housing there, so you don't short anything out, which is nice. Everything's connected. We just got to get this all mounted, which I might need to rerun those wires on the other side of that pump, which I do. So the way this is going to line up is you've got your electrical connector that goes in the car here on one side of the top hat, and then you've got your slot here where the fuel level sender is going to go. Those go on the same side, so when you're lining up your posts to go down like this, make sure your level sender and this are on the same plane, or slightly cockeyed in this situation, because that's just how the basket hangs. The wires go down, feed the wires into the basket outside of the housing where this slides into. Slide that in till it clicks, and then your level sender is in. Don't forget your spring. I put it on the side that you can see the tab that we flattened out, or you may have cut it off. I flattened it out. I'm gonna push this back in. Make sure there's no kinks or anything. That negative wire has seen better days. Shouldn't cause an issue though.
You sure about that?
All right, this is the assembled new pump. So, a couple things I did off camera. This was the wiring I was using. This is the old wiring from the original pump. And as you can see, the outer sheathing was starting to crack everywhere I bent it. So, I ended up unsoldering it directly up here and using the new wires off of the new pump, which kind of made this something I didn't need to do, but we'll know that for next time. So, we got all new wires for the main power for the pump. We got the fuel level sender installed. This guy is in and compressible. This out tube here, or the return tube here, this hard tube, I did cut almost in half. This is the piece I cut off. So I did cut that off so we could have compression, because if you look right down there, it's going to line up and hit with this little cross brace. So I just wanted to make sure we had enough compression. This is not secured with that tab like it was on the old one, so it can pull all the way out. But the fuel tank's not that deep, so once it's in, it's not going anywhere. It's fine. To give you one more better look at this, this is the factory top hat. We've got the new basket and pump out of the RS4 with the new feed line here that just goes to the original barb up here on top. Got a hose clamp on it to keep it nice and tight. Reuse the power and negative wire, or use the new wires, but they go to the same spot on the tabs up here for the connector to the new pump. And then use the original 3-wire fuel level sender, which just uses the same type of clip in here. So really, you don't have to mess with the wires on the original top hat other than the power and ground for the pump. So you can either splice the old with the new, or if you had old crumbly wires like me, I just went full new. I went the soldering route because I'm good at soldering, but do whatever you're best with. You can cut and splice them. If you do use heat shrink, just make sure the tubing is fuel rated so it's safe. But this is what the completed pump looks like. Now we just got to go put it back in the car. Hey, it runs! And everything up here is dry, so I think we can button this up and call it a job well done. Alright, well, that's pretty much it. New fuel pump is in. Sets the groundwork for the turbo going in. Like I said, I just got a little bit of work I got to do on the Audi. Then I can put this thing up on quick jacks and leave it there and not have to move it or worry about needing the quick jacks for anything else or anything. Service bay will be tied up with this. Yes, there's stuff I could do on here, but I need this drivable and movable on its own power right now, if that makes sense. But we got the new fuel pump in. It's really not that hard to swap all this stuff over. There's just a couple things you got to keep in mind. So definitely pay attention to what I was walking you through. But it's just a few wires, a little bit of plumbing. I put a new gasket when I put it in because obviously we want that to be sealed. Just be careful when you're working with the fuel lines on top of the top hat when you're pulling it in and out of the vehicle, because you don't want to damage those, because then you got to replace the whole lines and stuff. But as long as you're being careful and paying attention, it's really easy. We got an RS4 fuel pump in here now, so we've got the flow rate we need when we add boost to the car. So I'm super excited. That's really the first major step towards turboing this. I've done a lot of little things that were just kind of in prep work for it, but that's kind of the first actual going towards boost thing that we've done to the car, if that makes sense. Anyways, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment down below. I hope this video really helped you out. I know there's not a whole lot of videos out there kind of walking you through the process of converting this fuel pump. So I did my best. It was my first time. I made a few mistakes, but we took you along for the ride, and we got it situated. Car runs, we've got good fuel pressure. So yeah, I'm gonna change that fuel filter out and go from there. After we get the Audi fixed, we're really gonna tear in and start boosting this thing. So do all the things, like, comment, subscribe. Yeah, pet a dog, have a wonderful day. Live your life to the fullest. So yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.